We are going to be creating a little movie application using Razor Pages, and we're going to be following this tutorial. And Razor Pages utilize .NET, which we have been working with this semester. And a lot of the things that we have been covering, especially in the last month or month and a half, you will see utilized in this framework. So this is what it's going to look like initially when we run it, and then we will be adding to that. So in order for you to utilize Razor Pages, you do have to have ASP.NET web development installed, and you guys should have had that installed as part of your workload. So that should already be installed. I'm going to go ahead and launch Visual Studio. And I will show you how to tell if you have it installed or not. But I'm going to launch Visual Studio, and first I'm going to set up this project. So I'm going to go ahead and get my Visual Studio window showing over here. We'll kind of walk through this, and then I'll show you how to tell if you have it installed. So what we're going to do is create a new project. And if you want, you can key in Razor Page up here. And then you should see ASP.NET Core Web App Razor Pages. And go ahead and click on Next. For the project name, we're going to key in Razor Pages Movie, just like they have. I'm putting it in my 195 repository, and so I'm going to click on Next. If you have .NET 8 available, go ahead and choose that. But if you do not, you can pick .NET 7 and go through that version. There's really not much difference between the versions. And in this tutorial, you can actually pick .NET 7 right out of here. So I've got mine on .NET 8, and I'm going to go ahead and click Create. And so what it does is it creates a little folder structure. And if we take a look at this, I will walk through what you're looking at. But first, let's check to make sure that you have the right workload installed. So if you go to Tools and you select Get Tools and Features, this is where you can see the workloads and the components, everything that you have installed. So you do need to have ASP.NET and web development checked off. And if you do, then you should be okay. Okay, and always, this is going to launch the installer, and it is a good idea to always make sure you're current and up to date. I can see that I do have to do some updates, so I will be doing that after I get done talking to you in the video. So going through what we see over here on the right-hand side. So this is our Solution Explorer. It's got all of our files and folders. And in a Razor Page application, the program CS is the starting point for the app. This is where the main method is. And you can see at the bottom, this is the command to actually run the app. Right out of the box, this actually runs. It doesn't have a whole lot to it, but you can actually click on the run button. And what it does is it launches in a web browser. Okay. And this is considered a server-side application. So it's actually launching like its own little server called localhost. And this is what the pages look like. And so we're currently on the home page, but there's also a privacy page that you can view. And at this point, that's all there is. So I'm going to click on the X. Okay, and that should stop it from running. You may see an error. If you see any of these types of errors, you can say yes. And it says you're about to install a certificate, blah, blah, blah. Say yes. Okay. And once you do that, you probably won't see them again. I did not see it when I ran mine, but I run these types of apps quite often. So I would have already clicked yes to kind of bypass those screens. So as far as the setup in the Solution Explorer, the UI, the view that you are going to be looking at, the user looks at, is under Pages. And they are C# HTML pages. Okay, so if we look at them, you can click on them, you can see the HTML, but then you can also see some code in yellow. And this is called Razor syntax. And this is where we pull in some C# and ASP.NET code. So anytime we want to do any kind of programming code in here, we use Razor syntax. Okay, so we have some in index. And if we took a look at privacy, you'll see that we have a little bit there. So what this is displaying as the title is what we have here. Okay, so we have a little @ sign because we're pulling it from here. Now, could you delete that and put in your own title? Yes, you could. Okay, but this is just kind of how it is set up. So this would be the view. So this is your user interface. Then behind these, you'll notice that there is little arrows here. This is C# code. So you'll see it ends in CS. It is C#. And so what this does is it communicates with the view. And once we create the models, which basically define the data that we are going to be displaying and accessing for view, we'll be looking at it and storing it and all of that. Then it is the C# code behind the view that actually interacts with the model, which basically builds our database. Okay, so this is a view model or similar to a view model, okay, because it interacts with the view itself, which is the UI, and it also is going to interact with our models, which define our tables that are going to be in our database. And so all of these CSHTML, the C# HTML files, have C# behind them. Okay, and this C#, basically, it's the job of these files to take any command that is entered, interpret the command, and route to the proper page. If the command involves a database, it is this C#, it's those files' job to then communicate with the database. They will send the command to retrieve the data or update the database row, whatever it is. They will send the command to the database. The database then will send the command back when it is done. And you will see that because we will be creating a model. So that's all in Pages. Then we have www root. And so this is where you would put your CSS files, because you can customize the way these look. You could put the CSS files there. You'll notice that there's a default one called site. So you can modify this as well. These pages also utilize Bootstrap. So there's quite a bit of responsive layouts and styling that is coming from Bootstrap. Okay, and so you don't see that as much in these pages, okay, as you do in the primary layout, which is stored up here under shared. So kind of how these little pages work is this layout page displays the navigation system. So let me show you what that little system looks like. So this is the nav bar, and it's this page that generates this. And every single page that is displayed, and right now we only have two. We have home and we have privacy. But every page that we create is going to run through the layout and will display this same navigation bar. And, you know, if this gets small enough for like mobile, you will end up seeing a little hamburger here. And you'll be able to select that for the menu, and that's done automatically as part of Bootstrap. And if we look here, there's an awful lot of code that we will be digging into shortly. But just so you kind of have an idea of how this works. So every single page gets pulled in at this point. Okay, and so when we were looking at the privacy page, we clicked on privacy. All of the code in privacy got pulled in at this point, and that is where it is displayed. Same with our home page. So if we take a look at either of those pages, privacy, all of this code got pulled in to the layout at this point. So any page that we create by default is going to be pulled into the layout and displayed here. And that gives all of our pages a common user interface. They're all going to have the same menu. It's going to be the same color scheme, which, you know, we will be able to change if we want to. You can see here's our nav element. And you'll notice that there's a lot of class settings here. So that is how Bootstrap styles by classes. And, you know, these are all changeable, you know, so if we didn't want a light nav bar, we could change it to dark. Okay, if we did change it to dark, we'd probably have to change the color of some of our text, but let me show you how that looks. And we'll keep changing because I'm going to have to change this to background dark. And we'll see how that looks. With these views, sometimes you have to change several things to get it to show. We'll have to do maybe black. Yeah. So the nice thing about Visual Studio is as you are keying some of this stuff in, it will show you what the code is. So if I just did navbar dash, sometimes hopefully you get a little bar come up and you can pick from that. Okay, so here's navbar dark. And we've got black there. Let me save this. And then we'll do, if you do anything like this, if you click on this, it's a hot reload and it will reload your app. And it looks like that. Now you can see home and privacy I can't see anymore because those settings also would have to be changed. But I know a lot of you guys like the dark. So, this is how you get that main nav bar dark. And then if you look down here, so just like in our HTML, the menu is an unordered list. Okay. And so here is the first link. Okay, so we've got a LI, and then within our line item is the link. And you can see that we've got text dark, which is why we can't see it. So I would probably just change this to text white. And then save the page, do a hot reload. Do this hot reload. And I'm sure it reloaded and you can't see it yet. So that is how you can make changes. Okay, and like I said, the nice thing is if you aren't sure of all of the commands, you certainly can, especially when it deals with colors, just start keying it in and you will get a drop down. Okay, and we will be talking about what all this stuff means shortly, but there is already quite a bit in here that you guys already know. Okay, now if we look here, you'll see it says Razor Pages Movie. That is coming from here, and that can be changed. In fact, I think they are going to have us change it. For right now, I'm going to close this, and we are going to keep looking at the Solution Explorer. Okay, so the www folder, that is where our CSS is. And you guys certainly can come in here and make changes. Okay, if you wanted to add a color to the background or you wanted to add an image, you can do that. There is also site JavaScript. And then you can see here's where the libraries are. And so the Bootstrap code is here, jQuery, jQuery validation, okay, all of that. If you want to add images, then you would actually add an images folder to the root, and you'd have to put images in there in order to display them. And I can show you how to do that as well. Let's see. We talked about the pages and www root. We've talked about program, and we'll take a deeper dive into that shortly. App settings, Jason. So basically, this doesn't have a whole lot in it, but when we get to the point where we actually are going to create the database, the connection information is going to be stored in here. Okay, and so that's primarily when we utilize this file when we come in, is to take a look at that connection information. And if we want to adjust it, we can. Okay, and then let's take another look at the program CS. So the code in this file has a lot of pre-configured defaults. And all of the frameworks utilize what's called dependency injection. So that basically means you'll notice here that an object called builder is created. And we use this builder object to add services to the Razor pages. The services that we add basically give our application everything that it needs to run. And dependency injection involves, you probably noticed that we have classes. Let me see. We go and look at our pages again, and we look at the code behind. We have a class index model. We're deriving from page model. And as we customize this app, we're going to have more classes that we're deriving from other base classes. And what dependency injection does is it pulls in all of the dependencies that we need in order to create an object and run our application. So we don't have to worry if the base class isn't by default in our project, because the dependency injection is going to pull it in. Okay, it's going to pull in whatever we need for the application to run. So it's actually a really important feature in all of these frameworks. And let's see. So looking through here, so this is just basically saying, checking to see if the application is in development mode or not. Okay, and so if it is in development mode, we are going to see a little different errors than if it's in production. What's below that? This is all considered to be middleware. There's a lot of middleware that you can add or remove. And you'll notice that we have an app object. It took the builder object, okay, and it created another one called app. And then we use that little object to add all of this middleware and to actually run the application. So by default, the middleware that you get, the first one is use HTTPS redirection. So pretty much all of the domains now, the protocol is HTTPS. But what this does is if they keyed in HTTP, this redirects them to HTTPS. So that is kind of an important one to have in here. The use static files lets you use CSS, image files, JavaScript, all of that in your, it would actually be in your CSHTML files. Okay, so it allows us to add that static content to those files. Use routing. So what routing is, it's when you run your application, you're on the web browser, and instead of using these commands, you actually, you might key them in up in the address bar. Okay, routing also does involve these commands too. You'll see that it, when I hit privacy, how it changed up here. Okay, and home actually by default goes into index. Okay, so we have privacy, and I could just probably key in index here, and it's the same thing as using home. Okay, but routing handles looking at what we've keyed in and sending us to the correct page or view. Okay, so that is a pretty important feature. Use authorization. So we can actually limit what different people see on these pages based on their authorization level. We did not require users to authenticate. When you create one of these apps, I'm not going to create one, but I'm going to show you where this is. This is kind of beyond what you guys are going to do in this class. We actually get into this in the 218 class when we do MVC. But I'm going to show you what authorization is. So here, when it says authorization type, okay, this is where you can select your level. And so if you have authorization turned on, then they are going to have to log in. And with this turned on, you can create different categories for users. You can enable certain users to view certain pages, and you can prohibit people from viewing different pages. Okay, that's a more advanced concept that we cover in 218, but this allows you to do that. The map Razor page configures the endpoints. And so what the endpoints are is when you are keying something into the URL or you are selecting a command, the endpoints basically are defining, what the default is and where they'll go. So if I do /privacy, okay, the endpoint defines what page I'm going to end up going to. Or if I click on home, that defines where I'm going to go. So it enables that feature. So that definitely is something that you need to have turned on because it allows you to navigate your site. Okay, and then of course, app.run runs your application. And now that you have somewhat of an idea of what you're working with in here, we are going to be moving on to add a model, and that will be in the next video.